So this video is in case if you missed Legacy Youth last night. So last night we kicked off our new sermon series about discipleship. This entire sermon series is all about what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. And the overview of this message is that a disciple is someone who follows Jesus, is someone who is becoming like Jesus, and helps others to follow Jesus. And there's three questions that we asked ourselves last night. The first is, am I truly following Jesus? The second is, am I becoming more like Jesus? And the last one is, am I helping others to follow Jesus? The first thing that I talked about was that a disciple follows Jesus, right? A disciple is someone who follows Jesus. And in John chapter 8, verse 31, Jesus himself is speaking and he says, Jesus said to the people who believed in him, you are truly my disciples if you remain faithful to my teachings. You are truly my disciples if you remain faithful to my teachings. So what does it look like to follow Jesus? I believe the answer is in that verse right there. It's those that are faithful to God's teachings. It's those that live according to what God's word says. It's those who take God's word, applies it to their life, and lives it out. You know, I believe that a disciple is someone who's not necessarily perfect. They don't have everything all put together. Like we all sin and fall short of God's glory, right? But it's someone who takes God's word, believes it to be true, and begins to apply it to their life. And the second is a disciple is someone that is becoming like Jesus, right? Someone who's becoming like Jesus. Now, we don't have it all put together. Like, we don't have everything here on this side of heaven. And in Romans 12, 1 and 2, it says, and so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him. Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way that you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. Listen, it's all about not allowing culture to change how you live and dictate how you live. Not following culture and copying the world, but and letting culture shape you, but instead letting God shape you, letting God's word transform you, letting God renew your mind, letting his word transform and renew your mind. It's living out what you believe. It's becoming like Jesus. Listen, when we get saved and we are believers, we don't have it all figured out immediately right afterwards. It's a lifelong journey. This entire life that we have, this faith journey that we're on, it's all about becoming more like him. Every day becoming more like him. Every day the transformation and renewing of our mind. And it comes from reading his word, applying it to our hearts, applying it to our minds, and living these things out. And the last thing is, a disciple helps others to follow Jesus. In Matthew 20:19, it says, therefore, go and make disciples of all the nations. It's like Romans 1:16 says, it's being unashamed of the gospel of peace. If God has moved in your life, if you are a believer, if you call yourself a disciple of Jesus Christ, this is how you live it out. It comes to that place of saying, this is what Jesus has done in my life. It's not about having all the right words, saying all the right things, or being the smartest person in the room. But instead, it's living out the very gospel, the very good thing that Jesus has done in your life. And when people ask the hope that's within you, you are unashamed and say, this is what Jesus has done in my life, and he can do the same thing for you. And I believe that if we can commit ourselves to becoming and being more like Jesus this summer, we will live as the disciples that he's called us to. In this sermon series, we're going to break it down into an acronym into different things, right? So it's going to spell out the word disciple. So first we have discipline, then we have integrity, then we have the Spirit, then we have changed, then we have influence, then we have prayer, then we have love, and then we'll finish out with evangelize. And I believe that if we can take all of these things and apply it to our lives, we will become the disciples that Jesus has called us to be. Guys, I hope you're able to make it next week. We're going to kick off discipline. Pastor Sam's going to have a word, and we're going to go into small groups. Hope to see you guys there.